Karma here with your Sagittarius full moon cheat codes. If you're here, then you recognize that we are astrologically influenced by the push and tug of the planets and stars. With the understanding of how this energy influences us in life, we can better navigate life's obstacles. So welcome to the club, and let's take an overall look at the full moon in Sagittarius. There will be a full moon in Sagittarius on June 11th. The signs that will be most influenced by this are Sagittarius, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. The moon rules over your subconscious mind, emotions, instincts, and intuition. And Sagittarius energy has attributes of optimism, expansion, and exploration. Sagittarius is the sister sign to Gemini, where the sun is sitting at the time of the Sagittarius full moon. So there is heavy emphasis on curiosity, exploration, both on an internal, external, physical, and spiritual level. The new moon in Sagittarius was on December 1st, 2024. Back in December, Jupiter was in retrograde in the sign of Gemini. And there would have been something in your life that would have appeared or reappeared. And both the moon and the sun were in the realm of Sagittarius and in opposition to Jupiter in Gemini. With the sun now in Gemini, there will be exposure of something that was developing in December last year. So again, back in December, there would have been something that was slightly or lightly highlighted. Can you remember what happened back then? My suggestion would be to go to your text messages, your camera roll, your social media to see what you were posting to refresh your memory. The Sagittarius full moon will shine more light on what was developing back then. With Jupiter transitioning to Cancer, this could be good news or positive energy because Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. So let's take a look at the individual signs, but first let's talk about how to interpret the energy. This will be by rising sign. You can take a look at this from both the perspective of your moon and your sun, but your rising sign will be most accurate for the overall outlook of your life. If you're looking at this from the guise of your sun sign, this will be reflective of your ego, your attitude, or your focus. Okay, and if you're looking at this from the guise of your moon sign, okay, this will be around your emotions, your intuitions, and your instincts. So with that, let's jump into the signs. For Aries, the Sagittarius full moon in 2025 and new moon in 2024 has energy around your 3rd and your 9th house. Back in December, there would have been something that was highlighted around mind, communication, logic, or perspective. And what was highlighted in December would have been something highlighted to influence your thinking or perspective around exploration, ideology, or discovery. The moon will be full in Sagittarius on June 11th. So you may see reoccurring things happening within this realm of life because the sun now sits in Gemini in your 3rd house, where Jupiter was sitting in December of 2024. There is heavy emphasis on change and exposure around your thought process and perception of this energy. With Venus sextile to Jupiter that has just entered your 4th house, there is emphasis here on internal security and self-worth. You may find yourself experiencing sudden changes around this energy as the full moon nears. There's emphasis that these changes will ignite change in your attitude, ego, perspective, or purpose. For Aries, you may find yourself with a trigger ego because of the security that you feel or the lack thereof. Right now is the time to use your assertive, courageous, and enterprising nature to find clarity in the situation. You'll be surprised at what you'll find. Drop a comment below on what placements you have in Sagittarius. For Taurus, the Sagittarius new and full moon cycle are sitting in your 2nd and 8th house. And you will feel this energy the heaviest because the sun and moon will be in opposition as Taurus is rising. Your 8th house represents transformation and regeneration, and your 2nd house represents material value, finances, and your possession. So back in December, there would have been something highlighted around finances, like shared wealth, inheritance, resentment, karma, debts, or sexuality. What was highlighted in December would have been something that initiated thought and change in perspective around the value you place on these things. As we near the full moon on the 11th, you may see reoccurring themes happening in this realm of life. Because the sun is now sitting in your second house where Jupiter was sitting in December of 2024, you will see opportunities arise around your focus and the value you put on things. For some, this may even ignite or further continue a change in career, goals, or contribution to society. As Jupiter transitions into Cancer and creates a square to Saturn and Neptune, there is a need for you not to allow your fears or self-sabotage to misalign your energy. Now is the time to practice your balance between patience and action, and you will see opportunities arise to better help you understand the balance between the two. So drop a comment below for which placements you have in Sagittarius. For Gemini, the Sagittarius new and full moon cycle is sitting in your first and your seventh house. Your seventh house represents your deep bonds, your long-term relationships, your commitments, marriage, legal contracts, while your first house represents yourself, your perspective, your ego, your purpose, and the mask you present to the world. So back in December, there would have been something highlighted around a long-term relationship, commitment, or legal situation. And what was highlighted in December would have been something that adjusted your focus, nicked you in the ego, or had you reconsidering your identity or purpose. As we near the full moon in Sagittarius on June 11th, you may see some reoccurring themes happening similar to what they did back in December of 2024. Because the sun now sits in Gemini in your first house where Jupiter was sitting back in December of 2024. So there is heavy emphasis on your focus on a long-term relationship, business contract, marriage, deep bond, or legal endeavor. With Venus sextile to Jupiter that just entered your second house, there is an emphasis here on the value you place on things and the things you choose to nurture. This also could have an emphasis around the realization of how your fears, illusions, or delusions can contribute to where you apply your energy. For some, this can even be the entrance of a second life partner by way of a friend, or the understanding that a friend may not necessarily be suited for a long-term relationship or life partnership. For Gemini, you may find yourself struggling with rekindling or breaking up with a long-term friend, committing to a new friends group or social group, or going after your hopes and your wishes. Right now is the time for you to practice the balance between curiosity, flexibility, shallowness, and really pay attention to where you place value. Drop a comment below on where your placements are in Sagittarius. For Cancer, the Sagittarius new and full moon cycle is sitting in your 12th and your 6th house. Your 6th house represents your daily routines, your health, and independence, while your 12th house represents the hidden parts of yourself, like your desires, your secrets, your fears, your fantasies, and your dreams. So back in December, you would have seen something highlighted around your daily routines, your everyday life, and this could have even been ill health or sickness. What was highlighted back in December of 2024 would have been something that made you go deep within and consider the things you do on a day-to-day basis and maybe change your focus or your habits around that. As the full moon nears on June 11th, you may see reoccurring themes like that pop back up. Because the sun is now sitting in Gemini in your 12th house where Jupiter was sitting in December of 2024, there is emphasis here on your attitude and overall focus as it relates to habits, routines, and this may even affect your friends group, social groups, and community. There is an emphasis here on changing your habits to live a healthier lifestyle and not fall victim to self-sabotage. This does include substance abuse, as well as getting a better hold on your mental health. You may see opportunities arise around changing of goals to achieve a better lifestyle. For Cancer, you might find yourself falling into old bad habits, and this is the time to take note and redirect yourself because there is heavy emphasis on healing yourself in this moment. Right now, it's time to practice your healing powers and your perceptiveness on yourself. It's time to nourish yourself back to good health. Drop a comment below on where your Sagittarius placements are. For Leo, the Sagittarius new and full moon cycle is sitting in your 5th and your 11th house. Back in December, there would have been something highlighted around your creativity, your dating life, or pleasure that you were considering exploring. And what was highlighted in December would have been something that made you go change your perspective on what it is that you wanted to pursue or create. This could have even been with a friend or an acquaintance. As the full moon in Sagittarius nears on June 11th, you may see these reoccurring themes pop back up. Because the sun now sits in Gemini in your 11th house, where Jupiter was sitting back in December of 2024, there is heavy emphasis on exposure and change around that energy. With Venus sextile to Jupiter that sits in your 12th house, there is an emphasis here on your fears, illusions, delusions, or self-sabotage. There could be energy around you dragging your feet on the creation of something. In this moment, you may find yourself with an opportunity to move forward. There are opportunities here around fixing or mending an accomplishment that you may have fallen short on because of self-sabotage. You may see an overall change in your long-term relationships, commitments, or the entrance of a second life partner. For Leo, you may find yourself struggling with the balance between nurture and action. Right now is a good time to practice using your skills of charisma, creativity, and courage to push forward in this energy. Drop a comment below on where your Sagittarius placements are. For Virgo, the Sagittarius new and full moon cycle is sitting in your 4th and 10th house. Back in December, there would have been something highlighted around your home life, sense of security, family, past, or upbringing. And what was highlighted in December would have been something that made you consider changing your perspective or refocus on your ambitions within this energy. As the full moon emerges on June 11th, you may see these reoccurring themes pop back up. Because the sun now sits in your 10th house of Gemini, where Jupiter was sitting in December of 2024, there is heavy emphasis on exposure and change around this energy that impacts your ambitions and goals and how that interacts with your internal security. There is emphasis here on your hopes, wishes, community, friends groups, and exploration and discovery of that energy. You may find yourself discovering or learning new things about your friends group and overall social life. There are opportunities here to learn more about both your family and your family. You may even be seeing a change in your routines, independence, and even your work around these relationships. For Virgo, you may find yourself struggling with figuring out whether you should move on from or towards a friend or acquaintance. This may have an air of drama that plays on your fears, illusions, delusions, or habits of self-sabotage. Right now is the time to practice using your skills of analysis and diligence to better understand which direction you should take. Drop a comment below on your Sagittarius placements. For Libra, the Sagittarius new and full moon cycles are sitting in your 3rd and 9th house. Back in December, there would have been something highlighted around your perception or communication. What was highlighted in December would have been something that made you consider your willingness to look deeper for the truth and discover more than what is on the surface. As the moon goes full on June 11th, you may see reoccurring themes around this energy pop back up. There is heavy emphasis on exposure and change around this energy and the impact it has on your willingness to travel longer distances, pursue higher education, pursue a second life partner, or change your worldview. There is an emphasis here on ambitions, goals, reputation, and the influence you have in society. longevity. There are opportunities that are going to arise to move past old ways and consider new goals. There is an emphasis, a heavy emphasis on transformation for you, Libra. You may see a change in what you consider to be fun, enjoyable, or pleasurable, and you are empowered to take leaps of faith to consider energy that is outside of your comfort zone. For Libra, you may find yourself struggling with figure out whether you should move on from or toward a long-term commitment, relationship, or business partnership. This may be a great time to talk with your friends around your perspective and get advice in this moment where you may feel a bit of conflict. Right now, it's time to practice your skills of diplomacy, fairness to help you overcome obstacles that you face in this moment. Drop a comment below for your Sagittarius placements. For Scorpio, the Sagittarius new and full moon cycle is sitting in your 2nd and 8th house. Back in December, there would have been something highlighted around the value you place on things or self-worth. And what was highlighted in December would have been something that made you consider a transformation of these values or even consider the resources you share. As we have this full moon in Sagittarius on June 11th, you may see these reoccurring themes pop back up. Because the sun is sitting in Gemini in your 8th house, where Jupiter was sitting back in December, there is a heavy emphasis on exposure or change around this energy and the impact on what it is you share and when it's time for you to stop and move on. With Venus sextile to Jupiter that has just entered your 9th house, there is emphasis on exploration and discovery around relationships and long-term bonds you hold. This could even be around business or legal contracts. There are opportunities to reconsider the value these things have in your life and whether you should continue to commit to them or move on and find something new. You may see a change in your habits and the things you do to upkeep this energy, with an emphasis on how these connections make you feel internally secure. For Scorpio, you may find yourself struggling to figure out what to change to refresh and reinvigorate the way you are feeling right now. This will be a great time to start exploring other goals and ambitions that may actually lead you to feeling better. Right now, it's time to practice using your skills of determination to push through and find a better way of life that supports the abundant feeling of self-worth. Drop a comment below with your Sagittarius placements. For Sagittarius, the new and full moon cycle is sitting in your 1st and 7th house. Back in December, there would have been something highlighted around a change in focus, ego, identity, or attitude. What was highlighted in December would have been something that made you consider the possibility of a new deep bond, long-term relationship, or business partnership. As we near the full moon on June 11th, you may see these reoccurring themes pop back up in your life. The sun is sitting where Jupiter was sitting back in December. So there is heavy emphasis on exposure and change around this energy and the impact on what it is that you want to commit to. With Venus sextile to Jupiter in your 8th house, there is an emphasis on habits you formed around moving on from something, shared resources, and how you're emotionally triggered within that realm. There are opportunities to consider the habits you see as valuable or even bullheaded and take a different approach towards nurturing. You may see an overall change in your perspective around your dating life, entrepreneurship, entertainment, pleasure, or even young children. Sagittarius, you may find yourself struggling with what you should move on from and leave in the past versus what you should be taking an interest in. This may be a great time to start exploring your perspective and how your ego plays a role in your energy. Right now is a great time to practice your skills of optimism and enthusiasm to explore your long-term connections. Drop your Sagittarius placements in the comments below. For Capricorn, the Sagittarius new and full moon cycle is sitting in your 12th and 6th house. Back in December, there would have been something highlighted around fears, illusions, delusions, or unhealthy habits. What was highlighted in December of 2024 would have been something that made you reconsider the possibility of new routines and habits that would improve your way of life. As we approach the full moon in Sagittarius on June 11th, you can see the reoccurrence of this energy pop back up in your life. Because the sun now sits in the same house that Jupiter was sitting back in December, which is your 6th house, there is heavy emphasis on exposure and change around your daily routines. There is emphasis here on the bonds you create or have created and the possibility of fresh ones. There are opportunities to consider the habits around the attachments you place on long-term connections or commitments and how they play a part in your subconscious mind. You may see a change in what it is you value and feel provides you a sense of security. For Capricorn, you may find yourself struggling with long-term bonds that you hold and whether you need to nurture these bonds or transition from them. This also may reign true in the realm of children and mother. Right now, it's time to consider the discipline you hold around being reliable within your relationships and how that plays a part on your subconscious. Drop your Sagittarius placements in the comments below. For Aquarius, the Sagittarius new and full moon cycle is sitting in your 5th and 11th house. Back in December, there would have been something highlighted around your friends group, community, hopes, wishes, dreams, and or wealth. And what was highlighted in December would have been something that made you consider the creation of new friends and acquaintances, dating a friend or acquaintance, or the creation of a new entrepreneurial endeavor. As we approach the full moon in Sagittarius on June 11th, you may see these reoccurring themes pop back up in your life again. Because the sun is sitting where Jupiter was sitting last year in December, there is heavy emphasis on exposure and change around this energy and the impact on your overall entertainment and creativity. There's an emphasis here on the habits you have at home with your mother and within your family. You may find yourself experiencing sudden changes around this energy as the full moon nears. There is an emphasis that these changes will ignite change in your perspective, focus, or communication around this energy. For Aquarius, you may find yourself struggling with habits you have around your home and how that affects your focus on a very personal level. Overall, you may change your attitude around the persistence you have in keeping these habits in place. Right now is the time to practice your skills of originality and come up with solutions to the energy you feel around your overall perspective of home. Go ahead and drop your Sagittarius placements in the comments below. For Pisces, the Sagittarius new and full moon cycle will be sitting in your 10th and 4th house. Back in December, you would have found something highlighted around your overall ambitions, goals, reputation, and influence you have in society. What was highlighted in December would have been something that made you consider the internal security you feel around these things. As we near the full moon in Sagittarius on June 11th, you may see a spark of this energy pop up in your life. Because the sun is sitting where Jupiter was sitting in December of 2024, there is heavy emphasis on exposure and change around this energy. There is emphasis on creativity, children, entertainment, pleasure, and entrepreneurship. And you may find yourself experiencing sudden changes around this energy as the full moon nears as well. There is an emphasis on exploration of your fears, illusions, delusions, dreams, your hopes, and your ways of self-sabotage, and how that plays a part in the actions you take to attain value. For Pisces, you may find yourself struggling to take a leap of faith and creating a new opportunity for yourself that ultimately can lead to abundance of feeling secure within yourself. Right now, it's time to practice your skill of selflessness and dedication and apply that to yourself so that you can achieve your goals and feel secure within yourself and your home. Drop your Sagittarius placements down in the comments below.